Hey everyone, I am so thrilled for our guest today, Robert Kiyosaki, who has changed my life and millions of other people's lives, honestly, through your book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of the education you have shared with us, cash flow quadrant, and our audience is mostly comprised of real estate investors. So I wanted to get into the subject of real estate. I know you're a big fan of real estate investing and have taught a lot about it through your work. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I'm honored, as you know, how much I love Canada. Yes. Because although I make a lot of money in real estate, I'm a resource investor.
Exactly.
So I have gold mines, oil wells, silver mines. I've taken 3 companies public on Toronto Stock Exchange. I've learned a lot. I hung out in Vancouver for a couple of years, and that's the home of I call it the Frito Banditos, man. Those guys in Vancouver, that's the Wild West.
Absolutely.
They're always pitching a deal. Well, I loved it. I had a great time there. I loved it
so
there.
Cool. I'm glad you're a fan of Canada.
I am, very much so.
Of course. Well, and let's talk about that because there's such an importance in diversification as well in real estate and in the resources. And what are you focused on investing in right now?
Well, right now I've been, I took a gold mine from Provo, Utah, public July of this year, 2022. It's the richest gold mine in the world. And the interesting thing, it's a 140-year-old mine. And the reason we took it public was because we digitalized the content. So all these gold mines, little guys with little pick and shovels and little burros and all this, they kept really good records. So we took all their records, we converted it into digital, and when we analyzed it, we found out they missed the vein. So we re-entered the mine, went left, and we struck the richest gold mine in America. And
amazing.
It's in America.
Wow.
And so the rich get richer.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about, I really love the cash flow quadrant.
Right.
And if you want to explain a little bit about what that is, and then we could focus specifically on the investor quadrant.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That's a very good, the quadrant is very simple. E stands for employee. S stands for self-employed or small business. Self-employed means you have less than 500 employees. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more. But it's the I quadrant that's the most fun for me, and I stands for inside. The word is inside. You see, most E's and S's they invest from the outside. In Canada, you have the RRSP. In America, the 401k, IRAs, and things like this. They're all outside investors. So when I was about 9 or 10 years old, growing up in Hawaii, my rich dad says, you want to be always on the inside of the deal. And that's when I love Canada because every guy wants to be on the inside.
There you go.
It's part of your Canadian DNA. Real estate is an inside deal, you know. But most people, because they're risk averse or they're lazy, whatever the case is, they're outside investors. So they have a 401k, RRSP, and all that other stuff, which I don't touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the big difference. So the insider is the guy on the inside. When you look at the perspective, like I just took a company public, like I said, on the New York Stock Exchange, it says founding shareholders. Those are insiders.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so I like that when you mentioned about risk as well, because I think that's what scares a lot of people, and then they stay in their safety comfort zone. And then there's the investors who are willing to take those risks. And what can we do to mitigate risks in investing and just like get more confidence and momentum to play big?
Well, you have to define what risk is. The biggest risk of all is going to school, like my poor dad, you know, a PhD, and all he had was a PhD. He thought, I meet so many school teachers or smart people like doctors and all this. Well, I have a college degree. Well, so what? And without financial education, the risk is extremely high. So they're always afraid of this. So it's like I was just, you know, I'm wearing my Marine Corps flight jacket. Flying flying a gunship in Vietnam was high risk. But the higher the risk, the more you have to study. Okay, and what happens to most people, like my poor dad, they go to school, get their PhD, and then they say investing is risky. What did you expect, idiot? So when I was learning to fly, I went from school in New York to Florida to Camp Pendleton to Vietnam, okay? I'm that old. The higher the risk, the more you have to study. And so when somebody says, well, it's investing, it's because you're lazy. You know, I mean, you don't want to study. So I study constantly. You know, I'm always got my headphones on. I'm tuning into markets, the world, and all this. So investing isn't risky. Being stupid is risky.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. And I think it's so important to always be a student and always be studying and learning, and
especially today.
Especially today.
Right.
And we want to be around people who can elevate us, bring us up. And what do you think about going to masterminds, conferences, and all of this that's based on like the concepts that you are teaching?
Well, again, it goes to what is education, you know? So I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Trump and I wrote 2 books together. People hate the guy, but he's one smart dude. And the best thing about hanging out with him, writing 2, we're supposed to write a 3rd book together. But he said, I'm going to run for president. And I went, oh my God, it's a dirty game. You know, it's a dirty, dirty game. But you want to go to conferences to meet like-minded people. You know, if you want to hang out in this world that real estate investing is risky, then go to college. Because most college professors think investing in real estate is risky, and it is. But if you're on the inside of the deal, the risk goes down, as skill sets go up, risk goes down. You have better teams, smarter teams, risk goes down. So a real investor is trying to mitigate, you know, to neutralize the risk. And the more you neutralize risk, the more control you have over the deal. Absolutely. So my real estate investments, I have tremendous control. Except, you know, my wife and I are separated, but you should interview her because she's the control freak. I mean, she is so good at controlling the numbers on the deal, and we make a lot of money. But she's in control of the numbers, the deal, the suppliers, and all that stuff that other people think is risky.
Well, and that's a really good point. And I think where a lot of people, because that control thing, a lot of the entrepreneurs have it, but they do it in a way that's negative because they want control of the whole thing, and then they have a hard time hiring out, and they have a hard time
because they're S's, E-S. They're self-employed or small. You can't get big being small.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So they're into this. S stands for side hustle, small deals. But it's a free country. Do what you want to do. You know.
Yeah, do what you want to do, and it's. I guess, would you want to speak to the people who really want to play big and who want not only, because for me in real estate, I was doing single family homes for 10 years and buying one after the other and renovating them myself, and then after so much time.
Learn.
It was a great way to learn.
Yes.
And I learned so many lessons. And I listened to your books as I was working.
Oh, you're very smart.
So yeah, for sure. And I'd be, painting a wall and listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad and educating myself as I was progressing in my real estate investments. But then it got to a point where it didn't make sense. I was picking up one single family house at a time. So I decided to do apartment investing and self-storage. Right. So that's the direction that I went to. But it was difficult going from that to playing bigger because you have to have a team.
Of course.
You have to start thinking in a much bigger and different way and letting go of that control.
Correct.
Because I thought I'm a lone wolf, I'm just going to do this all on my own. But you can't get to the bigger deals if that's the way you're thinking. So.
Well, again, you are who you hang out with, and for me, I've been really blessed to hang out. Like you went to the Infinite with Kenny McElroy. He's my partner. Yeah. I cannot do what Kenny does, but he's got massive teams. Yeah. So I just give him. So I'm an insider. Kenny's the B. His business is real estate. Yeah. I'm an investor in real estate. So I give him my money to Kenny. To invest, but I don't ever want to manage a place by myself. I don't like small deals; they're a waste of time. But you have to start there. My first deal was an island of Maui. I just come back from Vietnam, was 73, 74, and the price was, I think it was 20,000 bucks or something.
Oh.
I bought it with a credit card, but I did it just to practice.
Wow.
And I learned a lot in that one small deal. And I went from small deal to small deal, small deal. So I did about 50 small deals. But that's how you get smarter. And then I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's when I bought hotels and things like this, but they always had professional management on them. Management is the key, as you know.
Absolutely.
And that's what Kenny McElroy provides, is the management.
Yeah.
I don't want to manage a damn place, you know. I just want to make the money and pay no taxes.
Well, and it's so cool to see too how you and Kenny met so many years ago, and then it was just this really great partnership.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
Because I had made so many mistakes, I knew what Kenny was doing.
Yeah.
And Kenny was the guy I was looking for.
Oh, absolutely.
Property management and a business that, and Kenny's philosophy is mine, we're 100% debt. You know, there's this guy named Dave Ramsey who lives someplace around here. He says live debt free. And for most people, that's the smartest advice. Follow that advice, live debt free. But think of it this way, I'm $1 billion in debt, okay? And I have $1 billion in assets. So that's the balance sheet. Billion in assets, billion in debt. And Dave Ramsey would say that's crazy. But that's why I make so much money and pay no taxes.
Absolutely.
But that takes training, education, great teams.
Well, and it's that understanding of the good debt versus the bad debt.
Correct.
And people mix those two up. And that was the second lesson in Rich Dad Poor Dad is your house is not an asset.
No.
That I think that blew people's mind as well as mine, because
Right.
everyone always thinks it is, but it's taking money out of your pocket,
Correct.
not putting it in.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if a property goes bad, it just sucks cash. Because I've had a couple of deals go really bad fast, and this, you know, as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, it's like you go down so fast if your leverage is there, but you have no management teams. And so that's what you're teaching people, what Kenny's teaching, or going to the Limitless event. That's where you go to meet other people, get ideas, find out partners, and you know, it's like dating, you know what I mean? You kiss a lot of frogs to find one prince.
Absolutely.
As you know that.
For sure. Well, and yeah, that concept of leverage as well, because you want to be able to leverage other people's time and resources and money. So I think that's a really cool concept as well, because if you want to do the big deals, but you have to understand how to do that.
Well, you know, I'm wearing this because we're being interviewed also for the military. But when we flew in Vietnam, we flew as teams. We didn't fly single aircraft. You know, that's not this Tom Cruise stuff. You know, we fought in teams, and so we'd roll in with 3 and 4 aircraft, just on the gunship sites, and we fought as teams. And in business, I fight as a team. I don't want to be the smartest guy on my team. As my Richard always said to me, if you're the smartest guy on your team, team's in trouble. But you'd be surprised how many people have this ego. I'm the boss. I want to own it all. You know, it's my business. That's S. Small.
Right.
Small.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Absolutely. I think team building is so important, but it's
not easy.
It's not easy. So how is that for you? Is meeting Kenny and then saying, okay, this is the person that I needed in my corner as far as the management and all of that. And then how did that partnership look, and how did it look when you really started building your team at the start?
Well, it was easier to just give my money to Kenny. You know, because there's certain things I do well, things I don't do well. It's like interviewing my wife Kim. She's extremely good at operations. I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I'm more Canadian than anything else because I love oil, gold, silver. I love resources, and I own gold mines and silver mines and oil wells and cattle. Anything the federal government can print, I don't care if it's Canadian or US, anything the federal government can print, like the Treasury, the Fed and all that, I want nothing that can be printed. I want only the real assets. So what happened was when Biden got elected, in 2020, because when it was, the first thing he did was cut down the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada to America. So I was selling oil at that time at $30 a barrel. The day he cut the Keystone off, oil went from $30 to $130 a barrel. I was making fortunes, going, holy mackerel. My basis was the same, but I'm now making $130 a barrel. I almost voted for Biden after that. I said, this guy, but I knew what Biden was doing. He was crushing the middle class. You see, I'm not religious either, but I was taught in Sunday school, the poor will always be amongst us. When Biden cut off that pipeline between Canada and the US, he crushed the middle class. So what Biden is doing, he's the biggest communist I've ever seen in my whole life. You know, and I fought, Biden should read this book, The Communist Manifesto,
And your
my book,
new
Capitalist
yes.
Manifesto. When Biden cut the Keystone XL pipeline, he killed the middle class. That is intentional. This whole inflation and all that is fake, 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 fake. And I don't like what they're doing. They're killing the middle class.
Yeah. Well, and that's why what you teach is so important, and bringing like into the home too, like in your book I was reading here, and teaching like kids through the cash flow game as well.
Right.
And I think that's such an important thing to start bringing into the home, and how children and people can get educated on like the financial freedom and money and really understand it.
Well, people, you know, I make fun of it. How'd you learn to be a real estate investor? So I played Monopoly. You know, 4 greenhouses, 1031 tax-deferred exchange, red hotels. So Kenny and I own hotels. I own several hotels not too far from here, but I don't manage them. Could you imagine me managing a hotel?
You kick everyone out.
I kick everybody. They
I'm sick of you.
I'd hate it. I was just in Hollywood last night with Jordan Peterson and the Great Canadian.
Awesome.
At the Beverly Wilshire. I would hate to manage that hotel. You know, it's just people.
Yeah.
So you got to know your strengths and your weaknesses. But I'm invested in real estate for 2 reasons. I use debt and I pay no tax legally. Debt, no tax. And everybody else is saying live debt free, and you should. Listen to Dave Ramsey, live debt free. But if you're going to play the game of real estate, you better understand debt, and you better understand management, better understand teams.
And where should people be, like, what should they be listening to? What should they be reading besides your work, of course? But because we have to be students and we have to study this stuff in order to make the best decisions and also keep like momentum of how important this is.
Well, I love, you know, I'm always on this. I'm always on YouTube. I'm listening to both sides. I was taught all coins have 3 sides. You have heads, you have tails, and the edge of the coin. So I'm doing my best to stand on the edge of the coin and listen to both sides. Like your country, Canada, there's a lot of Marxists up there. I won't mention their names, but they're in big power positions there. I listen to them, you know. I want to vomit after I listen to them, but anyway, they have their point of view. I listen to them, I have my point of view. But I must listen to both sides because it's the most important thing right now. And this gives you access to that. You know, I'm on my cell phone constantly, listening to both sides, and I make my decision which way I'm going to go.
Absolutely.
So that's the most important thing. And this is the most dangerous time I've ever seen in our history. I'm a student of history. The last time we were here was 1918, was the Treaty of Versailles, end of World War I. And the Treaty of Versailles went to hyperinflation, gave rise to a man named Adolf Hitler. And we're in that position right now. So it's a very dangerous time. So when people say, I'm just going to buy some real estate, I said, I wouldn't just buy some real estate right now. I'd wait for the crash. And then I'd buy some.
Oh, absolutely. And this is such an incredible time in history where there's going to be a lot of those opportunities coming up.
Hopefully. If we don't go to war. Because I think we might, I hope it doesn't happen, but as Jordan Peterson, another great Canadian, says, he says, you think tough men are dangerous to see the damage a weak man can do. And a weak man is Biden. I'm not political, you guys here. You have another guy called Trudeau. I don't know where those guys, we had Bill Clinton, you know, all these characters. They're destroying our countries. And so I've got to be more careful. But I think they're going to whack Taiwan. Because as it just did in the Ukraine, if they whack Taiwan, and I love Taiwan, but I'm going to get so much richer. So the point here is this: no matter what they do, you have to be in position to get better, get stronger. But you don't just buy, hold, and pray like they teach you, or Dave Ramsey says live debt free, or Tony Robbins says buy ETFs. I don't know if you follow the stock market, but ETFs are the biggest ripoff I've ever seen. Because when this market crashes, it's the ETFs are going to go to program trading. This crash is going to come down so hard, so fast. But Tony's rich. I don't like his advice, but he's still a rich man. So I listen to what Tony says. He and I were partners for a few years. And I just don't trust ETFs. I don't trust paper. I'm a hard asset guy. So that's
money in the ground in the real estate. So I guess like for people who are in middle class and they're wanting to get out, they're wanting to buy real estate, wanting the cash flow, wanting all of this, I guess it's because with that you have freedom where you can have more time when you're out of your job, like out of
you might
getting stuck.
The odds against you are not good. It sounds good in theory, but that's what's happened is since 2008, they kept dropping interest rates like this, but the debt went up this high. So today in America, our debt to GDP is 130%. That means, and the SLVs, silver, and GLD, the ETFs, all rigged. So I'm watching all this going, so I don't just buy real estate, I am a student of this business, you know what I mean? I'm watching this. This is not a time to be just, I'm going to buy, hold, and pray. I think we're in a serious depression coming. Now I'm going to get richer, but I'm preparing for it. So that's why you went to Limitless with Kenny and all that. We're all preparing for the crash right now. So I'm wearing my flight jacket. I had to, when I was at Camp Pendleton in California, getting ready to go to Vietnam, we had to practice crashing 3 times a day. Every day we crashed our aircraft just to practice. Because it's the same as in a market, when the markets crash, it's really a good time, but you don't know when it recovers. That's the problem.
Right. Okay. Well, and when is that? Because that's people's biggest question is, when is this market going to crash? Like, what do I do
We're crashing right
now?
now. This is 2022.
Yeah.
220. The worst part about it is that my concern with real estate is property taxes. And in America, they're probably going to raise property taxes and they're going to put rent controls in. So you can't raise your rent. So again, you should read this book. It was written by a guy named Karl Marx. I wrote this book here, Capitalist Manifesto, 50 pages, 500 pages. But you got to prepare, because I hate to say this, but most school teachers are Marxists. They don't know it. They're good people, you know. But Marxism and capitalism, they're just basic economic religions. Which one do you belong to? And Marxists always believe take from the rich. You know, this guy Klaus Schwab or something. Someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's what's happening in America today.
Absolutely.
So Biden is one of those guys. That's why he cut off the Keystone XL pipeline. And you know, I'm making more money because I think oil's being paid up at about $70 a barrel today, and I was making money at $30 a barrel. But the middle class is being crushed. That's going to crush real estate. That's my concern.
Well, and that's like who we're trying to reach now is the middle class, and trying to get them like this book in their hands and learning these fundamental lessons so they can kind of get out of the rat race. And that's something you talk about a lot.
But I know you're sincere about you willing to educate and teach people. But most people are just wanting to get rich.
That's true.
And one of the biggest, I'll pass this on because this is how my rich dad taught me. He was my best friend's father. He never went to school, you know, and all this stuff. And you look at some of the richest guys on earth, they didn't go to school. Jobs didn't go to school. Bill Gates, Michael Dell, Walt Disney, they didn't finish school. So one of the things my rich dad had me do when I was about 12 to 15 years old, about once a month I had to go knock on doors and collect rent. Okay, so I went, why are you making me do this? I'm a little kid, you know, so I go, here's the delinquency list. And I'd sit there knocking on these doors, and these adults would come out. I heard more bullshit. Oh, it's you guys are, you got capital, and you're just take from us, and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, their TV's going. They're eating their pizza and spaghetti, and they're fat as hell. And I'm watching all this. And they gave me every excuse why they can't pay the rent. So I go back to my rich dad and say, why having me listen to that stuff? He says, because that's why they're poor. I'm not religious again, and the word becomes flesh. And so whatever the poor or middle class have got going in their head, that's why the quadrant, E, S, B, and I is so important. I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to have a RRSP or a 401k, I'm going to buy a house, because your house is an asset, I'm going to save money. If they don't shake that crap out of their heads, they're going to be poor anyway. So I'm listening to all these guys. I'm a little kid, knocking on doors, going to collect the rent. And then I'd go home to listen to my poor dad, who went to Stanford, University of Chicago, Northwestern. Same words. My dad was using the same words the poor people were using on me. And so today, when I listen to poor people or middle class people, I listen to the words they use, because the words do become flesh. Oh, it's the capitalists are stealing it, or the economy's bad and all this stuff. If you don't change your words, you don't change your life.
Well, and I think that lesson, even the lesson of going door to door and sales and door knocking, like you talk about the importance of understanding and learning sales as well. Because I think that's not something a lot of people have to do. Go knocking door to door. And I would call something I would do for my real estate when I was calling self-storage owners. I'd pick up the phone and cold call and understand sales. And
Right.
I think jumping into it is the best way to learn. Would you say this?
Well, what we're talking about here is what makes you rich is not money. What makes you rich is skill sets. What skill sets do you have? So I'm wearing this because I went to military school. We fight as teams. So when I go into battle in business, I have the best accountants, attorneys, great real estate agents, I don't just take it for granted. I don't invest with friends and family, because most of them are like my poor dad. They have their retirement plan, their 401k, RRSP. They're lazy. They're good people, don't get me wrong, but they're just happy to make enough to get by. I like the game of money. I like real estate. That's why I love Vancouver, British Columbia. I hang out there. I'm in heaven, man, talking to everybody's got a deal. Everybody's hustling you. Most of them are crooks, but I feel at home with them, you know what I mean? I'm listening to these deals, and I've learned so much. And then I take them public on Toronto, TSE. I love Canada. I'm concerned about your leader, this guy Trudeau. But as you know, he and Biden probably came from the same place,
Seems to be.
Yeah.
So what's a lesson that took you a long time to learn that you think, if I would have learned this lesson earlier on, it would have got me ahead?
Well, again, it's team. And when we flew into combat, we're like tight. And the aircraft rolled in. We don't fight single aircraft. We fight as teams. So on my aircraft, I have 2 gunners, like 19-year-old boys, basically. 2 pilots are about 22 years old, and you have an adult, 25 years old, a crew chief, staff sergeants. The staff NCOs, so they're called, they run the military. So you've always got to have a staff NCO, like a staff sergeant or a gunnery sergeant. They're the guys that kept us alive. But they get the least respect because they're not officers, right? And they're a little older. But you got to have that guy in your team. I have some of my best employees are like my staff NCOs. They're the best. They're no bullshit. They've been there, they've seen it. They keep me on track. Like one day I was flying, I tell a war story. I was a brand new pilot in Vietnam, and you look up and there's machine gun fire is coming up at us. I'm going, and my crew chief, his name is Staff Sergeant Jackson, he goes, I go, what? He goes, Lieutenant, you see that guy? Oh, yeah, I see him. You going to take him on? And I look at, so I got 2 other aircraft on each side. I said, what do you think, Jack? Staff sergeant, he's 26 years old maybe. He says, I got some bad news for you today. I said, what's that? We're talking. He says, if you take that guy on, one of us is not coming back. Either he goes home and we don't go home, or we go home and he doesn't go home. And so that's how I've learned to operate in life. It's that important. Everything I do is as insignificant as it seems. It's that important. So I just called my 2 other aircraft and said, we're rolling in. And stuff's coming up at us. So the lesson I've learned, and because we're going into that time economically today, in today's world, you've got to be smarter. You've got to have better teammates. If you have people on your team who don't want to study, they want to get rich quick, just want a side hustle, off. Because that's, you went to Kenny's event at Infinite, that's where you meet the real players.
Absolutely.
Am I correct?
Well, and that was the biggest lesson for me, because I was alone doing my single family homes, listening to your books, which is amazing, and I was on this great track.
It's a good start.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
And it really was for me, and it taught me so much, and learning those skills on my own. But then once I got around the people who are thinking in hundreds of millions of dollars and talking in that sort of language, and then that's when you really start to elevate and understand the really important lessons, which is building the team, being around those people, and talking to people who are thinking much bigger. So
yeah. If you have lazy people on your team, or just want a side hustle, they want to get rich quick. Oh yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. He says buy real estate. That's not your teammate. Because they're lazy. And this is 2022. I think we're going into a depression, unfortunately. They're going to raise interest rate price. The communists, that's why I wrote Capitalist Manifesto, is the communists are going to going after us. And you guys have one big communist. You know who that is. We have one too. And we're getting crushed.
And what can people do now, like investors? Because my audience, they are on that track. Like they're the people who aren't lazy. They're willing to put in the work. They're willing to like really get after it. But then they get, there's so much uncertainty, and that's where people start to get freaked out. So what would you suggest going into this time?
Well, it's like I said, my rich dad was a man who just had me do things that were real life, not theory. My poor dad with his PhD was all theory. But this is the other big difference, was that my rich dad always went to seminars. So my rich dad would fly from the island of Hawaii, where I was from. He'd fly to Honolulu and take real estate seminars, Dale Carnegie seminars, this seminar and all this. And my poor dad, see how stupid your friend's father is. So why is he stupid? Well, he's attending seminars.
Spending money on this, like.
No, but he says, you don't learn anything at seminars. You must have a college degree. So there was 2 different types of education. My poor dad thought the only place you could get educated was at a university. And my rich dad said, why waste my time there? I'd rather go to a seminar and listen to real people. See, most college professors are fake. They don't teach they don't practice what they teach. They're good people, don't get me wrong. Like my accounting teacher, good guy, but he was never an accountant. He didn't understand cash flow analysis. He didn't understand none of that stuff. So then I'd go to all these seminars, and I'd meet real people. And that was a difference. My first real estate seminar I ever went to, I think it was $200 or something. It's made me millions. But the instructor walks in, he wasn't a college professor, he was a real estate investor. And he sat there and he was teaching us how deals are really done. And I went, wow. And then I talked to my poor dad. He says, oh, you just wasted your money. You went to a stupid seminar. I said, no, you waste your money and you go to stupid universities. And you listen to teachers who don't practice what they teach. That's criminal. That is criminal what they're doing in schools right now. Teaching, Black Lives Matter and critical race theories and gender bending. I don't care who you sleep with. It's none of my business, But don't tell me I need to have a sex change. Give me a break. Don't tell me I'm a racist. The racists are the people calling everybody else racist. So our education is so corrupt today. And that's what disturbs me. We're indoctrinating young people.
Well, and that's what's so important now with the education online, and there's the YouTube and the podcast where we can like have, be able to
Right.
and learn from people like you and listen to your podcasts and get that education, because it's not in the school system, and I never went to university either, and I'm so thankful now because I would learn from people like you and in the books and the seminars. I spent hundreds of thousands on coaching and seminars and masterminds, and it was way more valuable than going to university and getting a degree.
Yeah, it depends on who you are. I'm so glad to hear that. But this is your greatest asset. It goes between this year and this year. I have the cash flow board games, all of my books and all this. But you're responsible for what goes inside this gap here. Now, if you have garbage being put in, the biggest mistakes that teachers teach is don't make mistakes. I mean, how do you learn if you don't make mistakes? How does a baby learn to walk if they don't fall down? You know how many times I've lost money? Lots. You know how many times I've been cheated? Lots. But each one was a great experience. I learned a lot from. But when you meet these teachers, these professors, they live in academia. That's why Jordan Peterson, my hero, he got kicked out of schools because he couldn't put up with the professors. So we're at war now in our university systems. So the thing I say to people, listen to people like you who have actually done the real thing, and not somebody who's teaching from theory. And that was the difference between my rich dad and my poor dad. When my poor dad started laughing at my rich dad for going to seminars, I knew where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Seminars.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to listen to real teachers, not fake teachers.
Yeah. People who have put in the work, who really understand it, and who have the same path as where you want to be. Because there's so many people, there's a lot of bullshit online. Like a lot of people teaching that have never done it. Like it's in the universities, but it's online too. So you have to be really careful who you're learning from.
Well, I don't know if you listen to my Rich Dad radio show, but I get into dog fights a lot with so-called real estate investors. I won't mention their names.
Yeah.
But I get in, but what they're teaching people about, and they do invest and all this stuff, but they're hustlers. They're not trying to educate you. That's like, Tony Robbins and I were partners for a while, and he started recommending ETFs. And I'm a hard asset guy. We have SLV, which is a silver ETF, and we have GLD, which is the gold ETF. Do you realize there's no gold or silver in there? I forgot the word for it, but when they sell the silver ETF, there's 250 people with a claim to that same ounce of silver. In the silver ETF, there's 1 ounce of silver, but there's 250 people that own that. And the silver is being drained, the same as in GLD or gold. So I don't trust the stock market. Like I say, if you can print it, I don't want it. I'm that basic. Like my cattle, you can't print the cattle.
Yeah.
The best thing about cattle is what we're after is the semen, the bull semen. Okay? And I always wanted to be a rancher, but we sell the semen flow. Making fortunes. I think it's hysterical. What are you selling? Well, we're not selling the cow. We're selling the bull's semen. So you can inseminate, and then I get a percentage of each calf.
Wow.
I mean, to me, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
The passive income.
I always wanted to be a breeding bull, but I was never had that chance. So now I own breeding bulls. And it's really good cash flow. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, we want the cash flow, the passive income, which is your fundamental principles too.
Right.
So going into this now, are you investing in real estate right now? Are you planning to in the future when things kind of crash, or what is your plan?
I'm waiting for the crash.
Yeah.
But I'm also waiting to find out what is going to happen with rent controls, and I don't know how severe. That's what the Capitalist Manifesto. How severe is Marxism in America? Trudeau, as you know, is a Marxist. So is Biden. I hate to say that, but they are. And we're in serious financial trouble the world over. So if we go into a depression, it's going to be good. But I have to wait till I know what's going to happen. So meanwhile, I own lots of gold, I own lots of silver. I own Japanese Wagyu cattle. They say, well, why do you own Wagyu? Because the rich will always be rich. The poor will buy a hamburger. The rich will always buy Wagyu. They buy the brand. So I know my customer, I study constantly, I'm still studying, got my little headphones on. But it's a great time to be alive, but be careful who your teachers are. This is your greatest asset, this year to this year. That's why the cash flow board game, join a club, play the cash flow board game, get this thing fired up. Don't do it, just study. And so when I meet somebody, just give me a hot tip or a side hustle, buy, yours. I don't want people who just want a side hustle or a hot tip. I have no use for them, they get you in trouble.
Yeah, you want to be a student and you want to understand.
Right.
So for you, like writing this book and everything that you're doing, you're coming here doing interviews, and like you don't have to, right? You are fine, you have made it and you are good, but you choose to still educate and write the books and do the interviews. What is driving that, and what is that message you really want to get across? Because
I hated school. Our school is corrupt. Our education system is corrupt. They're teaching indoctrination. There's this guy named Thomas Sowell. He says we went from education to indoctrination. I mean, how can they teach you everybody gets a trophy? How can they teach you that America is a systemically racist country? I know this racist, but the biggest racists are the people calling everybody else racist. My roommate, I went to school in New York, from Hawaii to New York. My roommate was a black guy. I never saw black people before. I grew up in Hawaii. Well, I learned more about racism from him than the so-called Black Lives Matter guys and all this stuff. Look at what Black Lives Matter is doing. I mean, they're ripping off so many people. They've ripped off so many people in the name of protecting the blacks. They're the biggest criminals we've ever seen. I'm gonna get my ass for this one. But I hate racism. My family was locked up not too far from San Francisco. We were put in concentration camps because we were Japanese. We understand this stuff. But we didn't ask for reparations. We didn't say, oh, you owe us money. What the Japanese did, I had 5 uncles fight in World War II. 3 went to Europe to fight Germans and Italians, and 2 went to Japan to fight Japanese. So we fight for freedom. I'm still fighting for freedom. But the biggest oppressors today are academics, the school teachers. And that's why Jordan Peterson's out. That's why I'm out. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. I love that guy, Peterson.
Yeah, he's awesome.
We're fighting back. So that's why I do this. If we don't fight back, who are we then?
I appreciate your time so much today. Honestly, it's been an honor to have you to speak to and speak to my audience here. So is there any final thoughts, last words you'd like to share with investors who are wanting to play big, wanting to do great things in real estate? Is there any last words you'd want to say to them?
Yeah, I'd go to Vancouver, British Columbia and hang out there.
Come hang out with me in Canada.
I love Australia. I love South Africa, and I love Canada, because you guys are resource driven. You're real, oil, gold, silver, mining, copper, and there's something about it that's base metal. It's very basic. You're not this high-flying tech stocks or this FTX or whatever that Bitcoin stuff was. I'm not against Bitcoin, but Americans are so into getting the get-rich-quick thing. That's why they got nailed in FTX. I think it's FTX. What's it called? They all want to get rich quick. They want a side hustle. They want a hot tip. Well, there's a price for that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this NASDAQ, but Meta's letting 11,000 go, and Twitter's going to let go another 25,000 people and all this stuff. And people are still going to school to look for a job. Are you crazy? We're going down. But for those who are prepared with the best asset between their ears, it's going to be the best time of all. But those who are still going, I'm going back to school, get my PhD now, I don't think you're going to make it, because the problem is our school system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all your words of wisdom today. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Proud of you. Keep up the good work, young lady.
Oh, thank you.